In this kickoff episode of the Africa Real Estate Conference and Expo 2025 PropTech Dialogues, Lady Vicky sits down with special guest Elli Banini, a seasoned digital innovation expert and sustainability advocate, to explore what it takes to build real estate technology solutions that work for emerging markets like Africa. Together, they unpack the challenges of infrastructure gaps, localized user needs, data access, and funding, while also highlighting the opportunities that innovation, collaboration, and policy alignment can bring. This episode sets the tone for a series of powerful conversations leading up to the ARCE 2025 PropTech Conference in Accra, Ghana.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Africa PropTech Dialogues, the official podcast leading to the 2025 Africa Real Estate Conference and Expo. I'm your host, Lady Vicky Sampa, broker and CEO of GREPA and Abri Group. This podcast is where vision meets innovation, where the future of Africa's real estate is shaped through dynamic conversations with PropTech pioneers. Today's episode kicks off our pre-conference journey with a powerful topic: building sustainable PropTech solutions for emerging markets. And I couldn't think of a better guest to join me today than the brilliant Elli Banini, a PropTech strategist and systems thinker with a passion for creating scalable solutions across the continent. Welcome, Elli, to my podcast.
Thanks very much, Vicky. It's a big honor to be here, especially on the maiden edition of the show. I'm just super excited to have these conversations and explore ideas on how best to build scalable solutions across industry on the continent, especially on property tech.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Great. Elli, can you share a little bit about your background, what you have done in the past, and your passion for PropTech?
Great, awesome. Thanks very much, Vicky, and hi everyone. So my name is Elli Banini. I'm an innovation consultant mostly. I currently serve as executive director for a software company called Digits here in Accra. I think over the past few years, I've been mostly. I actually have a software engineering background. I worked as a software engineer for a while. Then I became a consultant, an innovation consultant, which is what I do daily now. I think passion for property tech, it's something that it started with seeing a lot of problems around, especially on the local market here in Ghana.
Right.
Yeah, as an innovator, you push to action when you see challenges.
Right.
But it started off, I think, a friend of mine around a gentleman who I became friends with has one of the biggest property development here in the city. They had a problem that I was brought in to see, hey, Elli, what can be done around this? So we have this problem, we have this problem, we have this problem.
Yes.
When I got in there, then I realized it's a general problem in the real estate market.
Industry.
Prior to that, I was never paying attention to what some of the key challenges in real estate were. I was just focused on building software for other markets. Okay. But I think when you talk property tech, especially on the local market, there's a lot of challenges there.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, from stuff like policy to innovations around, then to data management and all of that. There's just like a bunch of challenges in there. To give you an example, you take a typical Ghanaian developer or real estate company, they have to use about like 4 to 6 different solutions just to manage
solve a problem.
A problem, yes. Why they can have everything like centralized or build a complete solution. Yes. Of course, somewhere out there in maybe the West, you have developers with one suite solution that they use to manage everything across. Right. But here, it's not the case. And of course, some of our regulations and policies are not really functional, right? So I think that's what birthed that whole hunger, or I should say energy, to build solutions around this. And we've had some really wonderful opportunities to build solutions in property tech. Key of them, I mean, we did a few things outside of Ghana with some property companies outside of Ghana, building a complete solution for the entire business, like an ERP and all of this stuff. And it's been great. Some of the key challenges we have here are things that I am gladly open to delve into. I came with a full list, so we can delve right into them to look at how best we can build scalable solutions across Africa and the local markets as well.
Great, interesting. Now, let's dive into our discussions today. Sustainability, PropTech, emerging markets.
Great.
Where does this fall in? Where is the connection? Can you give me a little bit background on how sustainable real estate markets should be, and how PropTech is going to solve this problem?
I think one of the key problems we have on the local market, I will put it in context, like in the local market, especially here in Ghana, in West Africa, it's we actually don't build with skill in mind.
Exactly.
Any solution we build in mostly, and this cuts across like tech mostly. You realize that people don't really build with skill in mind. So they build like just for a small group of people. Then when it's time to scale, then they now have to go back to the table and figure things out mostly. But if you're building with skill in mind, then sustainability is at the core of that. So we are not only looking at tech as tech, but you're building with trust, number one. There are functional, informal sectors or areas in there that you need to consider. It's like when you're building a solution, if you're building like a full 360 solution for property or for real estate, we want to consider things like caretaker, tenant, and landlord, everybody in the entire value chain, not necessarily just building for the guy who is the properties.
Or for real estate property managers.
Exactly.
But you take everybody into consideration. All the stakeholders.
Exactly. Then comes in values, local values. One of the problems you have is that you find mostly innovators trying to do Silicon Valley in Ghana. Just pick a solution from Silicon Valley, then dump it to the local market, cut and paste kind of a thing. And it doesn't really always work, because then you realize that people have values, and user behavior is different on the local market. So one of the other challenges we have is we think about solutions more than problems. So we spend more. It's like a typical Ghanaian, you might say, I have this idea. I think this idea can make me money, 1, 2, 3. And that's about it. Not much is spoken about what problem really is your idea solving. We don't spend much time on identifying the problem. And maybe in another life where I used to teach innovation and all of that, I would probably say you should spend more time in the following the innovation process, where we identify problems clearly. So you realize that we actually have about 10 solutions for just one problem. And at the end of the day, the 10 solutions don't even necessarily solve the problem in entirety. We still have to go back and try to re-engineer. So we keep reinventing the wheel all the time. So I think first thing, we pay so much attention to problem identification, trying to understand properly. If maybe I'm a real estate developer in Accra, and I really want to digitize the entire process, or I want to know how many properties I have in Accra, and maybe insuring my property tax and all of that, and then managing all these tenants and all these property managers in one piece. These are like different things all put together. But you should be able to consider the key problems from each.
And the root problem also.
The root problems. So when we get that, then we can then build with skill in mind, knowing that, maybe this is just property one I have, I'm scaling it to the Nigerian market or something else, that way. If we consider that, then maybe we can then talk more about policies or policies and regulations. One of the biggest problems you have in emerging markets, especially here in Ghana, is data, property data. Property data is just all over the place,
and I think we'll leave property data for another
conversation. That's like a whole day conversation.
Elli will go on and on and on with property data. Now, let me take you a little bit, back to what you mentioned about bringing all the people together, all the stakeholders within the system or where we find the problem, bringing in the tenants, the property owners, the property managers, of course, and the government into. Would you say that is where part of the problem is? Would you say that the collaborative aspect of our solution is what is creating the gaps and the delays in trying to solve these problems? Because I know there's been a few companies that have come up, that have started, solving some of these problems or creating solutions to some of these problems. There's been some online marketing platforms. There's been some property management solutions. Some of them are still existing and doing well, others have failed along the way. Would you think collaboration, and the reason why I asked that question was when we started Africa Real Estate Conference and Expo, the first event we had was about collaboration. That's where we saw the gap. That is where we saw the problem. And so the first conversation we had was on collaboration, and it was a good conversation. It was a good conference, and we had very good results because we began to realize that if we don't collaborate, we cannot reach our goals. Each and every individual, either a developer, real estate agent, real estate broker, whoever, construction company, if you do not collaborate with the other person, we will not meet our ultimate goal. So do you see this collaboration aspect as part of the problem in the industry?
Thanks very much, lady, for throwing more. I think it's key. At the core of every innovation and sustainability is collaboration.
Exactly.
So that's one of the key problems we had from day one, or in this case, I'm talking about the local market here, say Ghana, the Ghanaian local market. Collaboration is a key problem. You need to get to the bottom of this to find out that someone is looking to build a solution and is not considered how all the other key stakeholders collaborate on that. But then they single-handedly, or just from their perspective, build a solution. At the end of the day, the solution is deployed, but it doesn't really solve a problem for everybody in the value chain. So everybody in the value chain is forced to now find a way to build their own solutions. And so you end up having multiple solutions that not necessarily integrate with each other. Everybody is just sitting separately. And funny enough, we have these silos. In silos, and these solutions are built in a way that it's quite funny sometimes when you get into the details of this. But collaboration is at the core of every innovation and sustainability project. Collaboration at the core of it.
And I know you mentioned scalable solutions, and I think we'll get to that as well. But talking about collaboration and also synergizing the system. Do you think that's also another problem, that we build solutions that don't sync with each other?
It's one of the biggest problems we have on the local markets. I recently had some engagement with some officials, and you realize that even from the financial space, especially banking, you have systems sitting there. Like 6 different solutions, software solutions they have, and all of these don't integrate with each other. So they're now trying to figure a way to now say, okay, well, how can we make everything else talk to each other? So then they will now have to be looking for people like us to get into the room to figure out. So I think that it comes down to the same thing about not necessarily taking time to understand problems. When something shows up, we're like quick, like, oh, this one, we need a software for this, so let's build a software for this. But you don't really understand the problem, and also we've not considered collaboration, because if you're considering everybody in the value chain or all the stakeholders there, you'll build a solution that that works for everyone.
Great. Lovely. I'm enjoying this conversation now. We've talked about integration, we've talked about collaboration. So how important is localization when designing PropTech tools?
I mean, we can't really overemphasize this, right? It's like a simple question mostly asks is like, how much of a real estate data can you find on the local market?
Right.
And how much of this data it's available on the international market?
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
I know there's another conversation on data management and all of that, but yeah, localization is like at the top of everything. And currently, we are not doing so much good at it.
Right.
Right. There's a lot of gap in there because most of these solutions that we are even using are like solutions that were shipped down to us.
Right.
Right. So you have like the data, all of maybe the local market's real estate data sitting somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And because then again, because maybe to a large extent, policy hasn't really been that much of a help in regulating data. Yeah, but localization is very important. So if you're talking generally about localization, we're talking things about values and cultures of the local people, the local market.
Part of our solution.
Yeah, exactly. The user behavior of the local market and all of those things. So all of these are factored into whatever solution you're coming up with. Yes. Maybe there's a way a user somewhere in New York will interact with the system.
Right.
It won't work for the guy in Kaswa who has about 25 houses in Accra. Right. It won't work for him. So you have to then consider the way he interacts or his whole personality in that design. So it's very important. Localization is very important. Now, in terms of design data and even the solutions itself, it's very important.
So sometimes I would say global is a new local. But based on what you're saying right now, it's very important to take localization into consideration in everything that we do, so that the local person that is interacting with your system it can adapt to that. But at the same time, we also have to look at the global market as well.
Yes, so this is one of the reasons why you build with scale in mind.
Right, with scale, exactly.
Yeah, when you do with scale in mind.
So our conversation is leading to the scaling, solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Great. So, talk about private-public partnership. Where do you see the government in all this?
Great. Government plays a very key role in this, especially with policy. Right, with policy. I was involved in a few conversations around property tax and all of that, and just recently, property tax and all of that. You see, there's a lot that government is losing.
Right.
As far as property market or real estate is concerned, in recent times we've heard about a lot of money laundering activities amongst real estate or in the real estate space and all of that. Government has a key role to play there.
Right.
Number one is from policy perspective. If we have a proper way to manage data
and collect data
and regularize real estate operations, it's like property finance data. I'm sure, I think this is no news in Accra, but then I can see, we can do like a property tour in Accra and we see maybe a 2-bedroom house going for about $500,000 US, $500,000. Then the same 2-bedroom, a few blocks away could cost about like $100K.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're talking about disparity in pricing.
Exactly.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, and all of this. I think government has a big role.
Today you're mentioning all the major problem areas we have in our market.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think personally, this is one of the few things I've become quite very passionate about. Because I feel it's not much is being done here in terms of I'm referring to property tech, and there's like a lot of opportunities there that I feel when the table is set right, people like myself and maybe other innovators can step in to build solutions that can solve some of these key problems.
Exactly.
Yeah, some of these key problems. Yeah.
Right. Great. Yeah. So, are there any success stories or case studies that you have come across that we can learn from?
There are a few of these. Of course, locally and globally as well. I guess globally more. But globally elsewhere. I mean, Lily, just a few days ago, you and I shared a video with me where Egypt the Egyptian government, in collaboration with the private citizen, also has launched an MLS. MLS is basically a multi-listed service and all of that. And see, other countries are taking that initiative where there's a general MLS.
Yes.
Government is at the helm of affairs of that,
right?
In partnership with other private developers and entities to drive that.
Exactly.
It helps everything, like from policy perspective and regularization perspective, everything is well set there. So you have like a set of policies and regulations that govern that whole thing. In this case, you will not have maybe Kofi, who is like a real estate agent, just taking people around properties and taking showing them houses and taking 10% and all of that. But there's some proper regulation. There was this,
I like the 10%, the 10% mark. I wish the agents are being paid 10%.
10%, right? Yeah, funny enough, a friend of mine in Accra, she came to Accra and she was looking for a property, and I was quick to recommend one gentleman. And apparently, the lady rented the space out, and the guy wanted to take almost the 10%.
Really? We all attempt to take the 10%. Why not? There's no regulation, so of course, why not?
And the figure here, the figure is crazy, right? So she was trying to negotiate, and the gentleman said, "No, my friend, that cannot happen." He was very and it tends to be very chaotic. Of course, a few friends have to step in again too. But then the gentleman's point is like, I mean, he's done his job,
right? Yeah,
and
exactly.
He needs to be paid. And at a point, he even threatened to kick the lady out of the apartment.
Oh no, she had already moved in.
Yes, that kind of a thing.
So what you're saying is that they move in before they pay the 10% or whatever percentage.
Kind of. So it's like a verbal agreement.
This is where regulation comes in. This is where advocacy comes in.
Exactly.
Why would you collect your fee after after the person has actually moved into the property? What if they decide not to pay?
Not to pay, yeah.
So that's a problem.
Exactly. So I feel it's time we regularize we put the right measures in place for activities of like maybe brokers, agents, and developers, everybody in one piece. Or let's get everybody in a room, government at the center of that, have the right conversation to see how best we can put things together to move this industry forward. Because there's a lot of opportunity here for government and all of that.
I think that's a good suggestion. A good stakeholder meeting with the government. Of course, we have a new government now in Ghana, and so a good stakeholder meeting to freshen up our ideas on what is going on in the industry, because sometimes people forget that real estate agents also have a say in this.
Exactly.
There's the reality on the ground and what people think.
Exactly.
And so that's why I was saying I wish they had paid that 10%. I wish they had paid that 10%. They wouldn't complain at all. So that stakeholder meeting or a forum to discuss the realities will be something that will be good. And I hope our podcast is going
gets the right attention.
National, and maybe if we're lucky we'll get some government
conversation ongoing. That should be good.
Government personalities listening to this podcast and will invite us and the entire real estate professionals across the country to sit in a room and have a discussion. That will really be a good
I think it's very important. The previous government in Ghana introduced this thing where people can actually take a rental loan kind of thing. You can rent and the government to pay for you. That kind of thing. I'm not sure we made any good progress with that.
I don't also know because I didn't follow it.
I'm not sure.
It was established and these are some of the things that we need to follow through and make sure that it's really working and monitor the progress, and also make sure if it's not, then it has to be completely taken off. But I know that something like that was established, and I think a few people did. The targets was rather more to government employees. Unfortunately, most of these things are targeted. Even mortgages in Ghana are more targeted to government employees and multinational companies.
Mainly, everybody's thinking about security.
Nobody's thinking about the informal market, and that's actually where the money is. So again, around that, there has to be a structure. There have to be systems
put in
place for the informal market as well. Yes.
A friend of mine, I think about 2-3 years ago, who wanted to solve one of the key problems. He's a developer. So he said one of the key problems with landlords demanding about a year's advance. It's about security.
Elli, you're a tech guy. But you really want to get into the business.
Yeah.
You know?
I think from my background, you get to sit in the meetings where problems are being discussed and you are supposed to provide a solution. I remember Bright that we had a conversation there. Bright was like, the problem is around security. The landlord wants security.
Right, exactly.
That's why they don't charge monthly.
I always defend both sides. Of course, I am not for the 1 year, 2 years of advance payment, but at the same time, I also think about the landlord. I mean, with my experience from the United States, of course, there's credit. There is your job. There is the court that will actually stand in for you as a landlord. But over here, we don't have that. We don't have the credit system. You can't check somebody's background. You can't check somebody's credit to make sure that they've defaulted or anything has gone on. So the security aspect for the landlord is also at stake. So that's very true. But I think one after the other, we're moving into a developed real estate market, and in a very short time, if the partnership we're talking about works very well, then we will see a very well-organized, regulated, and formal real estate market.
That would be really good because, I mean, we were talking about success stories earlier. I know, and just in the tech ecosystem, some really innovative solutions that have been developed. Like a couple of friends are developing something for verification. So if just any random person, you can verify. Just with your Ghana card, I can verify. I can do like a background check real quick.
Really?
As a property owner, before I even give out my property,
is there
that kind of
software
thing.
For that?
It's been there are some group of people working around there.
Really?
It's Ghanaian owned.
It's
Ghanaian owned. There are a lot of
It's not being rolled out because I haven't heard.
It's now been. Hopefully they launch maybe in a month or two.
That sounds very good.
But we have some really brilliant minds behind that.
And I think real estate agents will really need that. I think that these are tools that we need.
Great.
And talk about integration. If we could integrate such tools into our systems, that will make it much easier. You log into the MLS and then you just have this tool that you can verify. And I'll give you an example. So in the US, our MLSs or our association websites do have systems like that. I was telling the guys the other day that there is a company called Forewarn. And Forewarn has been integrated into the multiple listing service that you go there, a tenant calls you and is interested in renting a property. You can easily check who that tenant is.
Solid.
You can easily check with their phone numbers, their address. When they are ready to rent a property, you can check their background and make sure that you are not putting the landlord in any kind of risk.
Trouble,
Right. And if the landlord, and you have to make your landlord aware, this is what I found. And if it's still okay with you and we can negotiate, we can still do that. Absolutely. But at least the landlord knows who they've given their property to.
It's very important.
That's going to be a very good thing to
it's very important we empower local solutions that solve some of the key problems. Again, we were talking about localization earlier. It takes people who understand the problem here to be able to solve some of the problems. And we can't necessarily say that it's because we don't have solutions. We have like some of the best solutions. We just have to empower them to get to where they need to get to. Maybe another story could be around data and syndication and all of that. I'm looking for the day where maybe you should champion that, where Ghana has like a full MLS.
And you know we're working on that. We just need empowerment. The word we just use, we just need empowerment.
Empowerment from government.
And yes.
If we have that in place, we have like an MLS in place, government is at the back of this thing driving it.
Yes.
Yeah, we have the right policies in place.
Yes.
We can do wonders with it, right? We can do a lot with it. And it helps with, data syndication and all of that globally.
And market analysis.
Yes, and all of that. We have a solid data that can be used for a lot of other things. That's very, very important as well.
The solutions, people have solutions. The problem is sitting on one side, solutions on another side. How do we bring both of them together to solve the problem?
It's an interesting thing, and one of the things that I'm looking forward to is like this year's ARCE conference. I'm hoping to see the full collaboration, as we talked about, from government and private entities coming together in the same room, around the same table, have the right conversations. Kind of like from ARCE Conference 2025, we have the action items that maybe by December we are rolling out an MLS, or we put in the right policies in place to drive this and this. Let's at least we can hold each other accountable to that and see some good results for it.
Well, like I said earlier, I hope they are listening and I hope they're going to take action.
Absolutely. It'll be really good.
The other day when we visited one of the ministers, we've been able to visit 3 ministries. Ghana Real Estate Professionals Association.
You guys are doing amazing.
Yes. We visited the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. We did visit the Works and Housing Minister, and recently visited Honorable Sam George.
Ministry of Communications.
So we're trying to work with these ministries. Maybe the next one will be the local government. But we're trying to work with the ministries to understand the problem and know that there are solutions that are waiting to be used to solve the problem. And so that's part of the private-public partnership and then the collaboration things that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yes.
This should be good.
Right. Well, my last question, inclusivity, scalability, and accessibility. What do you think about that?
We can't overemphasize this, right? Especially when we talk about building solutions. These are the backbone. You want to build for everyone. So you're considering everyone from day one, building around all of that. So every solution, especially as it has to do with property tech, every solution or any innovation, these should be the key things that we build on. So inclusivity, like getting everyone like fully involved. We talked about collaboration at the core of everything. So we're not just building solution for developers, but then for even the caretakers or facility managers, everybody down there, even to janitors and all of that. Everybody is like fully involved, and accessibility. We'll now live in a more interesting environment where more than ever, we need to consider accessibility. So whatever, even if you're building a 125 skyscraper building, that kind of thing, you need to make it more accessible for people with disability. And from that perspective, and then another perspective is maybe building systems that can easily be accessible. Data can easily be accessible from all of those stuff. So all of these like play a very key role in whatever solution we are developing or building around
and
property tech.
Incorporating mobile accessibility.
Mobile accessibility, absolutely. I think one of the key things happening around now is mobile first approach in any solution development. And that's very important. So these are a few things that we have been working around and I've been privileged to see happening around, and more that we are pushing forward to see in the ecosystem.
Wow, that's I think we've had a great conversation this afternoon. And we look forward to seeing you more. And we want to use this opportunity to invite our viewers and our friends all over the world to register to join the Africa Real Estate Conference and Expo, June 18th to 20th. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a game changer. Don't forget to call us or email us. Anytime, you will find our email address and our phone number below. And we look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much for watching, and you have a great weekend.
Awesome.